We're going to go live to YouTube and come in and take your seat at the table here. I'm Eimear Stassin, sacred storyteller and earth witch, and I am here with my dear friend and colleague and collaborator, Cheryl Prince of 5-Dimensional Theatre. Welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you. I've been dabbling with that a few times, calling it 5-dimensional theatre instead
Really?
of 5D. Yeah, someone else said, well, wouldn't it be clearer for people? And I was like, yeah. So you did it.
It just came
Yeah.
in, you know?
Yeah. There you go. Reading the soul. Reading the soul.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we are live on YouTube as well, so hopefully people can access that. And welcome, let us know where you're joining us from, who is here. And yeah, we're going to talk about all things witches with our upcoming events, the Witches' Wheel at Spring Equinox, and also an Ireland retreat at Lunasa this year. So we were going to dive in and give you some highlights of what we're going to be teaching about and exploring as well. So Cheryl, I know you can
Dive
hardly
in.
wait to share the
Yeah.
beauty of what's been coming through for you.
Yes, so I want to speak in today about how witches are expanded throughout history. And sometimes we can get stuck about thinking about the witch history in terms of the persecution and what happened when the witch craze happened. And that's really important. That is why we bring out the witch's wheel and explore the sacred and satanic. Really, really important. But also that the whole of the witch history, as far as I'm concerned, in my soul's lineage, it's probably deeper than this, but my soul particularly goes down to the ancient Egyptian roots. And I find that really important because most practices of the New Age or Theosophical Society or anything that the origin of spirituality, and especially the new consciousness that we have right now, always nods to the Egyptian lineage. They'll be teaching something about Isis, Osiris, Horus, Thoth, you name it, it's in there. Thoth is actually the origin of magic because Hermetic magic comes from his teachings. So it's always worth knowing. So I have a big passion about making sure that we go to the origin of the wheel as far as I see it. And maybe as we've been traveling together, me, you, and Eimear, the origin of the wheel's got a little bit older because there's a belief and a knowing that this wheel kind of might have started in Ireland and come through Egypt and then come back round. So yeah, but for this particular witch's wheel at Lunasa, I really want to bring forward a lot of the teachings about Egypt and particularly the Black Rose lineage, which I've been teaching for many, many moons, but also quite a few years more recently. And it's about the darker side of magic, demonology, how practices can be used and abused, but right importantly for us all now, how they can be reclaimed in the hands of healers and not harmers. So sharing this knowledge, this gnosis about how the Egyptians saw the 10 bodies of light, how they understood the soul, how they understood magic, how they worked and understood any kind of darker energy is really important because I feel like this needs to be passed back to the people and not kept in the royal bloodlines with only king and queen's consciousness. I speak as a bit of a gypsy witch today.
Just a bit. You
Just a
are
bit.
the gypsy witch. You are the
Yeah.
witch.
Yeah. Yeah, and I speak in the Gypsy Witch to explain that throughout the 17th century, healers were called cunning folk, and they were the people that work with magic, and they had the knowledge passed down through their ancestors, through the wives' tales and the knowledge from the people, and they kept it secret. They had protection spells over their doors. They knew what they were doing. They work a lot like healers do today, and so I have a big love for the cunning folk Gypsy witch history. I think it's where it's at. And it's time to reclaim that lineage and put our royal codes back in us because we're all royal. There shouldn't be some power over. I don't believe in it.
And how does that connect to the Black Rose that you'll be teaching about in our next Witches' Wheel?
Yeah, so Black Rose has its origins not only in the Egyptian lineages, but Venus as well. And if people know Venus, planet of love, so it has a consciousness that it's very heart-based. And I'm going to get into this today, there was a lot of practices that used black heart technology in Egypt. And that technology was to harden the heart and take out the human consciousness, the empath, the lover, and turn them a bit soul dead. I mean, it's quite a big practice that I'm going to save for the workshop because I can't do it justice in 2 minutes here. But it was a black heart technology, and I believe it was to help harm the soul and degrade the consciousness. And I think often people, you don't want to get your mind around about how technology is used against us, but it very much is. I think we all are aware about what technology can do to our mind, our brain waves, our soul, and our spirit. Science has proven this. So for me, as a mystical person, I've actually channeled these lineages and then found other people like the wonderful Lisa Renee speaking about this black heart Anubian technology, she calls it. I think that's very interesting when you look at someone like Anubis, who's a jackal-headed god. When let's say shamanic practices seem to get a bit twisted because you were suddenly worshipping part human, part animal headed beasts, which if you look down a Anunnaki lineage, for example, it's exactly the same lineage, which isn't pure human consciousness. And pure human consciousness, for me, to define it easily, is the consciousness of the soul in the body, the divine template.
You talk of reclaiming the codes, the king-queen codes within us.
Yeah.
So is that one of the ways then that combats this black heart technology and restores the divine humanity of who we are?
Yes,
Divine
because
humanity, the divine souls of who we are.
I like that divine humanity of who we are. I
Hashtag
really like that.
divine human.
Divine human. Yes, because there was a teaching in Egypt about the 10 bodies of light. Now, I don't feel that this was the origin consciousness. I feel there was 12 bodies of light. So even the 10 bodies is like a drop consciousness. And I'll be guiding through this practice on the workshop. But this 10 bodies explores us as multidimensional beings, that we're more than this body, but the body is sacred, the body's important, the organs are important, that we are souls and how you can work with the soul, but we are also higher spirits. They've got so many different names. And that was the joy of the teachings that in Egypt, that they actually understood the soul and the light body and the cosmos and the star system in a much more advanced way. And many of us are reclaiming this today, trying to bring back those teachings. But to bring in those divine codes is basically retrieving your 12-strand DNA, your full consciousness. And we're often taught not to use that today. We're often, how often are we taught what to do with the soul, what to do with our spirit, how to work with our own energy? I mean, that to me should be in every school, in every teaching, and every child should be given this knowledge. Amy, you hanging about on the chat there?
Yeah, I'm putting the link in the chat.
Oh,
You always
nice.
pick up on that. It's like, you're not fully listening. I'm listening. I'm listening. And the link is in the chat because we keep talking about the workshop. So the link's
Yeah.
in the chat just so people know what we're talking about. And Michelle is saying she put her crown back on this morning.
Like,
Put your
boom.
crown on, Queen.
Yeah, nice. And so what's it on fire? I feel like there's a fire element in it. And a water, maybe an air, earth, ether. Pick your element. What's most speaking to you about this? Witches wheel workshop, because I know we've both sort of crossed over on the very Egyptian codes this time. Resurrection, obviously the time of Lunasa, but also the time of Easter. I know for myself, I had a resurrection, a personal experience of resurrection at Easter. It got me on the path of being an actress. It was Easter weekend, when I had a sort of spiritual crisis and realized I couldn't go on in my life anymore. So I think it's a very important time for, in the collective consciousness, resurrecting your soul and starting again on your true purpose. And yeah, and I know you talked quite a bit about bringing through the wounded masculine. So can you tell me anything more about why that's so alive in you?
Yeah, and it is funny when you say we've crossed over, because this is our 6th witch's wheel. Can you believe
I
it?
know.
On this
Yeah.
journey. And Emer Beamer loves the light, and it's all about balance as well. So being aware of both the light, the divinity, and the distortions in both. So what came up really strongly for me is the wounded masculine, and acknowledging that within me. I wrote a poem a while ago, and it was really that recognition of, oh shit, the wounded masculine, it's within me as well. And how does that play out within me? How is it played out in my past lives? How is it playing out in society as well? So we'd be exploring all of that. And Isis and Osiris, the stories there, I came across, as I was researching for this, I was actually looking for something else in my notes, and I came across some channelings that I'd written about Isis and about Osiris. And it was about the truth of bringing the truth, share the truth of our stories, share the truth for these times. So yeah, it feels like poor Osiris getting chopped up into 14 pieces. It's really not a nice way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that myth was put out there to shine a light on sacrifice, because the idea of sacrificing to the gods was very prominent in Egypt. So what was you saying to sacrifice and chop up a god? You know, whether it's a myth or a true or what happened or however you resonate with it, that sacrificial energy comes from there. So I see it as a warning to society. And I also see it as a way to go, do you know what? Sacrifice isn't for me. I don't think sacrifice should be in our language of how we show devotion. Although, you know, yeah, I think there's different ways of giving up something. But I love what you said about that you love the light, because in that moment it just dropped with me that I absolutely love the dark, and that's why I'm fighting for it. Because the dark isn't what people think it is. The dark is the mystery. The dark is the left-hand path. The dark is the occult, the hidden, the feminine. You know, the dark is all of that, the womb space, the dark mother. And I think that for me is why the Black Rose teachings have been so important to me, because I'm like, that's not what it is. And I see it being stolen and taken and used to harm and sacrifice. And I was like, if you've got a rose lineage in you, think Magdalene, think Isis, think older, you know, that kind of ancient mystery school, then you kind of know, think witch, more modern, what you're fighting for. That magic is true, real. The soul is true and real because you know you've lived many times before, and you kind of know what you're back here fighting for today.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm loving so much. That it's like, you don't take my dark, the Venus, the love codes, and then divide them and split them into 14 parts of a body, you know?
No, no, not on your watch, not on our
No.
watch. And also Yeshua, crucifixion, spring equinox, Easter, and this grand celebration about and around the crucifixion. So we're going to be delving into that. And it surprised me when that came up for me, to be honest. And then it didn't, for the time that it is. But I've been doing some research into that and feeling into this for myself as well. And that aspect of the sacrifice, what we've been taught, the distortions, the corruptions within that, and how that is right in the face of all of us, of many of us who have been brought up in the Christian path, the Jewish path, religion, in religious households. And yeah, what that means and how that relates to the resurrection.
Mm.
I'm reading a book just now about Anna, the grandmother of Yeshua.
Yeah, I
Oh,
haven't read it yet. I
so
keep meaning to.
beautiful.
It's on my list.
It's beautiful. I started it a while ago, and then I do that with books. I leave them and then come back when the time is right. And there was one line, and it just said, and it seems so obvious now, there must be death before there's resurrection. And we
Mm.
can take that physically as has played out, whether that's true in the stories, and the metaphor, of course, of the death, of what are we letting go of, what are we releasing, what is no longer serving us for the resurrection to happen, to occur. And it's something I witnessed and observed with my father dying 30 years ago, and his final word being resurrection. And now there's the death and then the resurrection.
Yeah.
So, what is rising up for us? We're going to be exploring that as well.
And that makes me think of the other part of the witch as wisdom keeper, and the origin of the name and how to utilize that name, and that you can't step into wisdom until you know something, which is why I don't understand why we'd have our soul memories wiped out to come in, because we need to know stuff to learn from it and change. And that's why I feel it's so important to get our soul stories back and our knowledge back that we have in our soul, that's not out there, it's in here. But that once you know something, you can do something differently. And that has been resonating through me so much, because my father's death wasn't nice, wasn't pretty, wasn't good in any way. It was a dark, traumatic, overlooked death that brought me to my knees. And it's very recent. It's only been a year now. But what that started, it seeded this witch's wheel. Because once I'd seen things so clearly as a healer, seen so clearly what had happened throughout the ages, why the cunning folk and healers got wiped out, why the organic medicine disappeared, what damage it done to my own father, my lineage, it gave me something to go, okay, I'm not going to forget that. And in his name, I'm going to live differently and try and help anybody else to live differently, so that not only are people honored for their soul when they're going through the dying process, it's a very important part of what they did in Egypt, let's say, for sure, they had rituals around death. They talked about the death process. That's why resurrection comes from there, because they thought more about the soul's journey than this life. And then we lost all of that, and then people get stuck dealing with death in a very hard, unclear way, and there's no space for it in hospitals unless you bring in a chaplain or someone to speak to. But that might not cover your faith. Certainly didn't my father's, so I had to stand and hold space for that. But that also, it was another wake-up call for me to go, okay, I have to change the way I live, the way I look at food, the way I look at toxins, the way I look at how we're being polluted, and the way we're being medicated to not look at the soul and the soul's health and the body's health and the mind health, which is actually all the practices the Egyptians were using as well. So I think it's really important not to forget that the wisdom keepers were always, as far as I can see down your silage, fighting for this wisdom to come back to stay in the hands of humanity. Because the minute that power is given away, and then you start to look to a doctor as a priest, or look to a scientist as a god, you're in trouble. But we're taught that way, to look at somebody else, to go, they're going to have the answers. And unfortunately, I didn't know as much as I know now. But I know, carrying my lineage forward, that part of the work that I do today is to bring real awareness, because you can't forget what you know. You can't forget what you know.
Yeah. And it's almost like, well, it feels to me like the greatest way we are being asked to live now is to prepare for death, prepare for the afterlife, to live in communion with who we are so that we know where we are going, so that there is safe passage for us on the other side, which it isn't
Yeah.
a side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Which
to be
is,
educated in that.
yeah, which I think is the resurrection story. You
Mm.
know, whether you believe in the actual resurrection of, you know, the mysteries. I mean, it's strange because when you look at the timings, and the story, the Jesus story is exactly the same as the Osiris. It's the same dates, it's the same. So it's like, is this just a myth that's handed down to us? I don't know. I don't have that answer. I feel like I'm just sort of open to believe what resonates with my own soul these days, but to take the wisdom from what I need, and that, yeah, what we should definitely be looking at is what you said, that what is the journey of the soul? Where's it come from? What's happened to it? How can we nourish it? And where's it going to? And where's it coming back to? All of those journeys are
Yeah,
so important because, you know, we're not just this fixed life now.
yeah, yeah. And suddenly the hero's journey that you teach in your programs has just like gone quantum. I've seen.
Well, that's the thing. I teach the hero's journey, which loads of writers will know about the hero's journey. It's a famous, well, a lot of people might know about it because it's, you know, it's a lovely 12-step arc for writers. But what I came across through myself, through teaching it, was about the 12 chakra journey, because it's the same stage as the hero's journey, 12 stages. And then the most important, the soul's journey, which is the stages that your soul goes through: spiritual crisis, dark night of the soul, the awakening, soul loss, soul retrieval, magic, in the final stages. And I think that's what's so exciting about the time we're in, and that dimensional, that fifth dimensional consciousness that you talked about, that stories need to have this multidimensional because we are multidimensional. So instead of just having this, you know, hero's journey that doesn't take a massive nod to the soul or magic, it's sort of there, but not in the massive capacity. It's why I kind of adapted it and teach the soul's journey alongside, for writers, especially that want to write about more multidimensional aspects of who we are.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love how we've branched into that. And 12, you talked about the 12. Did you say the 12 bodies of light earlier?
So there's 10 bodies of light, but I don't believe that there are. I think there's
Yeah.
12 because
Yeah.
it just makes sense. I don't
Mm.
know how you'd break those down because I know the 10. But maybe watch this space. Let's see if I can name the missing two pieces.
Yeah.
I
And the
just
tree
feel
of
that there
life,
is.
tree of life,
Yeah.
and then 12 dimensional reality that we're stepping into. I
Yeah.
don't know what that is. And for anyone watching, if you can see in my window back here, I don't know if you're noticing, there's been a yellow tit, a tiny little bird that's been tapping. It's eating the blossoms that are just coming out on the tree outside. It's a Japanese maple tree. And this bird has been pecking at my window for the last 3 days. Surely it's nothing to do with resurrection. Look, can you see it? It's
Yeah.
beautiful. And I
Wow.
know it's the time of their mating and their nesting and everything, but this bird is here. Like, yeah. So thank you. Thank you for being here as part of this.
Nice. And so, yes, so yeah, we'll be sharing all of that.
Yeah.
The Witches Wheel workshop is on the 22nd of March, right?
Yes.
We
Yeah.
moved, we reread the date, yes.
Yeah. 22nd of
Uh,
March at 7 p.m. UK. Yeah.
yeah,
And you
and
can be there live and or purchase the replay. It's both. You know, you get both.
yeah, and it is number 6, as you say. So 6, ooh, is a very powerful number to be jumping into for the resurrection. And not only will we be bringing more information through about this, but there'll be some guided journeys, because inevitably part of the work we do is to wake up your soul story, not just as, and that is why it's a collective offering. And speaking of somebody's soul story, I thought that warranted a bit of a dance.
A little soul dance.
A little soul dance. And that might be a new transition. And now onto the story of the soul. Your soul and Ireland is big, right? What's going on there? And
just a bit, just a bit.
talking of sacred storytelling, I should say, which is just the new name of the new next level retreat that's coming, Island Bound.
Yes,
So
yes.
tell us why Ireland, why this, why now, why you, why me, why Petra, why everything?
Yeah. So three of us have joined together, significant number, the joy of the triple spiral, three of us from our different locations of where we live or where we're from, Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, you're in London. And it's been clear to me for a while now that we've got to this healing journey. An aspect of it is healing the rift within us, but also for me personally, coming from Ireland, upon the sacred lands of Éirú in Ireland. So the actual divide of the 6 counties of the border in Ireland, the north-south divide and that rift, but also what that means for each person that feels called to this retreat. So there's healing to be done on the lands because there are curses, there are distortions, there's density in the land that's blocking the flow of energy, that's blocking the magic.
I better get my body ready.
And I'm smiling saying this, come to the land. And there's the magic. There's the magic that is waiting in the sacred sites. So this retreat is going to be in August, 2nd to the 4th of August, 3 full days. And we are going to the magical gem of Navan Fort in Northern Ireland in Armagh, Awan Macha in Irish. And it is the place of Macha who placed a curse on the men of Ulster. So talk about the wounded masculine. Oh, it plays into this as well, and healing this rift within us and the divine feminine, so we come back into sacred union within ourselves. So it's a magical retreat to walk the lands, to hear the truth of the stories. We're joining with Petra Carroll, who's a shamanic earth medicine energy healer. I've just added parts to
Yeah.
Petra is who
A
you are,
general beautiful
Petra.
soul.
A beautiful, powerful soul. And we're going to where she lives in Awan Macha in Navanfort Road to hear the stories of the mythology, of the lore, of the land, and for people that feel called to listen to the story as the land speaks and weaves through you, because that's the truth, that's the importance, and to go on sacred pilgrimage and help unweave and reweave what arises and what arrives. And you were going on a journey as well to the north, very tip of
Yes.
Ireland.
Yes, so I'm doing pilgrimage with a bit of a difference. I see it as basically there's a lineage of theatre makers that do pilgrimages. I was taught by the teachings of Grotowski, who ended up saying that theatre wasn't enough anymore. It wasn't doing enough for people. And so he started to do pilgrimages with people to get them to have their own theatre experiences in their body as a very immersive practice. That is the lineage that I come from, that I was taught as a performer. And I didn't know anything about how spiritual it all was until I had my own awakening in the rehearsal room. And so for a while now, it's become very important for me to put on plays, but also to do theatre, immersive pilgrimage theatre with other people. And that means going to the lands, hearing their stories, but more than that, bringing out your own poetic words, your sacred texts, the words that are wanting to say in your body, because I believe we all live theatre, but we often put our soul to the back and don't allow ourselves to take center stage. Now, you might not think immediately, oh, am I connected to Ireland, until you get on those lands. I know for me, it was a past life regression and a soul reading had that they were like, get back to the Giant's Causeway, which is where we're going, and remember who you were, and that you were teaching the oracle wisdom, the bardic wisdom, where they were sacred poets that would learn all the words and then walk them along the coastlines and be like an oracle to remind people who they were and what they were capable of, which is interesting because it's why I do theatre today, to activate souls. But this experience was twofold for me to wake up my soul and remind me of my Irish roots, which is becoming more and more important as a storyteller, but also to help other people have an experience of what theatre can be, because sometimes we don't want to sit and watch stories passively. We want to be part of that process. And I do say that I believe storytellers are how we are creating the new world, because stories are that powerful. So rather than use it as just entertainment and putting people to sleep and keeping their consciousness down, my way of fifth dimensional theatre is to awaken, to activate, to excite, to inspire. And so this pilgrimage theatre that we'll be doing as part of the island retreat is to activate and awaken your own soul story on the lands, because there's probably no better place to do it. Yeah. And yeah, I want to
Chills
say
as
that
you're
when you
speaking.
think of churches and theatres and banks and anywhere that, you know, is trying to be prosperous, they are all placed on top of a sacred land. So, you know, let's remember, even if you're inside a building, you're probably on a sacred land. But what is beautiful about getting out into the earth and walking is that we can get, you know, closer to it and have the freedom to create our own stories there. And I know that you've been doing a lot of this roaming land work lately, and it's been filling your soul cup right up. Did you want to
Oh
share
my
anything about
goodness.
what you've been up to?
There's so much, and I'm sure all of you here will feel this quickening. Like there's so much going on, and even I feel time is changing. You know, time. We're just being called to. I feel I'm being called to just show up and go with the flow of what is needed. And I feel that's what the Magdalens did. That's what people, the gypsy witches did on pilgrimage. You just show up and work with what is here right in front of you and within you. And while at the weekend I was at a Healing the Witch Wound event and walked on fire again, and it incredibly powerful. I was sharing part of my witch awakening with a new audience, a new tribe. And on the way back with a friend of mine, we visited another stone circle, Long Meg. It's in the Lake District, if anyone's been there. And it was that communion and that power of, again, being with the stones. I just love stones, the rocks as the story keepers. And also feeling like being one of the stones, held and contained and being wrapped up in this huge stone circle that is ancient, ancient. And helping, I had been gifted some sacred oil synchronistically called no other than green Tara.
Wow.
I'm going to show people actually, because like the bottle is like a transmission. Green Tara, it's from New Zealand, from Wisdom Keepers of New
Wow.
Zealand.
That's gorgeous. That's funny because I put oil on for our chat today. The Holy Grail one, Sarah, the
Oh
royal
my,
bloodline.
oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
for those that don't know, the lead character in my play, Awaken, about my witch hanging in the 17th century, is called Sarah. She's called Sarah as a nod to Gypsy Witch, as a nod to Jesus and Mary's lost daughter, and as a nod to a very sacred lineage, let's put it that way. Yeah. And a nod to Sarah Spindler, who died in Bury St Edmunds as part of the witch trials.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh.
I just wanted to say, could I sniff this first? No, carry on. I'll bring that in a minute.
Yeah, I almost felt like a woo, like we stepped into a
Yeah.
time warp there.
That was
Yeah,
it. What you said about time and weaving, about the change. I just thought it was, yes, I just wanted to respond to that it is a strange time, and about shifting, but also what you're saying, turn up and see where I'm needed and what needs to happen. And the strange thing is, when we do that, like it leads us back round to where we're meant to go, because I had a dream quite a few years ago and I named it nomadic theatre. And nomadic theatre was me working with community and seeing what this community, wherever I went, needed to say in that community. And then I somehow feel like that island's the first part of that, going, these souls, because on our last witch retreat, which was just bloody gorgeous, if I don't mind saying so myself, the first time we tried it all out and you had a retreat booked and I was like not going to go because I was losing dad and I just didn't have time, and you were weaving this retreat, and you were like, okay, I'm meant to do this retreat, just following your soul's calling to Scotland. And then at the last minute, I don't know, I think I got this, you're meant to be there, off quite a few people as well as guys. They were like, you've got to go. And I was like, okay, I've got to go, because that's what the soul was meant to be there. And just a divine meeting of souls. It was a beautiful group of us. It was very magical, very inspiring, very awakening. One of your practices changed my business that you did when I dropped the label of the witch and stepped into the blue fairy, which is part of my logo now. It's part of my new show that I'm developing. It's like there's big things that have been weaved out. I know a lot of people got to try sacred theatre for the first time, where I got everyone to put their soul center stage, whether it was healing or moving, telling their story, tried out what our collaboration could be. And that was the first sort of really trying, where I turned up at your house and I said, Spirit's saying, throw away the rule book. And you graciously went, oh my God, what? And then
No, I went, Eimear says no.
Did you say
No.
no? You
I'm
sort
not
of
throwing it away.
He sort of looked at me and I went, oh, I'm sorry. And then something so much bigger than us came in, and graciously I kept saying to you, I'm channeling more, and we ended up kind of dividing the space, and so much more came in. And I think that's what's so beautiful about working in this way, that there's a template. We know what we're going to do in Ireland for sure. We've talked about it, we've planned it, our souls have nurtured it, but also it's about the people that gather and the stories that need to be told.
Yes.
And that's about going, it's okay, it's bigger than me. It's bigger than me.
Yeah, and we should let people know that there is a caution when you sign up to this retreat, that you may end up keeping in touch forevermore with the people that come along, because
you may find your soul tribe.
You may find your soul tribe, just as a, afterthought. And because the group that gathered in October in Scotland, we are all still in touch. And the person that I went to the stone circle with and the firewalk was one of the people from the retreat last year. And so much magic has happened. So this is all part of the bigger picture, the bigger mission to gather like-minded souls again, because it's back to the pact that we made to return, to connect at this time. And even at the weekend, there was a Lendrick Lodge connection, and we then began weaving. It's like we're overlapping circles and weaving new circles now.
Yeah.
Meeting.
Petra was on the workshop.
Petra was on the workshop. Petra signed up on my dad's anniversary last February for last year's retreat and came in like a fire dragon. And now we're weaving together. It's just meant to be that the three of us come together to help with the healing.
Yeah, and I want to say about the Egyptian link in temple arts, because she's also got a beautiful yurt in the garden. And so the whole way that this is going to be run is about sacred ceremony, whether that's pilgrimage theatre, or gathering together inside this space, or gathering by the stones. It's all going to be done very much like a sacred temple space. It's mystical. It's a nod to the origin that we talk about, and that how that can be awakened. It's a nod to bring your drums, to bring your instruments, to bring your words, to bring yourself, your whole soul self. None of it needs to be hidden. Bring it all, if you need healing, if you need storytelling, if you need connection, it's all of that. And that's why it's beyond sacred space.
Yeah. And beyond time and space.
Beyond time and space, indeed.
I wonder, I was thinking it'd be worth, because Sylvia's asking about the timings, but will I share the screen and just show the retreat?
Absolutely. I love practical Eimear. She goes mystical and practical. You're so good at those.
Can you see the screen? Sacred
Yeah.
Storytelling Retreat Ireland. Heal the rift within and return to divine truth. This photo is actually one Petra took of all her magical materials and elixirs as well that we'll be working
Gorgeous.
with over the course of the 3 days. And it starts on, so Navanfort Yurt, as I've called it, starts on Friday the 2nd until Sunday the 4th, and it is 3 full days. So Sylvia, for your question, we do start at 9:30. We haven't actually fully agreed the times of what time we'll start, but it will be
9:30.
we haven't agreed the times. 10, an Irish 9:30, which means 10. I don't know. We haven't fully agreed, but it will be full days, because when I show you what we're going to be covering,
We
there's a
need it.
lot. There's a lot, yeah. And day one is all about connecting in with yourself, with the land, with each other, with your new soul tribe that you're going to be meeting, to activate your ancient remembrance and to anchor in your light. So this is going to support the onward journey of where we're going. So we'll be learning about the land through Petra, through myself, through Cheryl, and we'll be moving, we'll be in the earth, but we'll also be going on a walk to Hockey's Fort as well, which is right beside the yurt, and also Navan Fort. So these are sacred places, and very, very ancient as well. And as Cheryl said, bring along all of your instruments, including yourself and your voice. And then day 2, we're going to go on a bus tour. We're going to go north in a private coach. And this is important too, that we're starting at the south of Northern Ireland, and then we're going north, and then we're coming back south again. So that's important too, the ley lines that we're traveling. And it is about the play, immersive theatre pilgrimage to the Giant's Causeway and the Beemore stone circles. So this is where Cheryl was speaking about the sacred pilgrimage, connecting to the Druidic bard within, and also this connection to the Celtic lands too.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that you don't know what story you'll receive until your legs are on that land. It's going to be quite magical.
And the rock, we've got to mention the rock as well, is molten. It's basalt, so it's volcanic, extinct volcanoes, and the sacred geometry is important of these rocks as well. They're hexagonal, and we can walk amongst them. And this is a picture of the Giant's Causeway. And on the way back, we're going to stop off at the Beemore Stone Circle, which is 7 stone circles. It's such a gem of a place, 1,269 stones. And I feel it is that connection to the Pleiades, to the stars, to the star beings. And let's feel into what else comes through as we walk and commune and connect with these stones. And then day 3 is integrating back to Navan Fort Yurt and the soul retrieval and integration and whatever else needs to come through. I'll be sharing stories about Ireland, the divine, the distorted, our colonial history, and what we are healing through our lineages as well, and all of you that feel called to this land. And there's also in the mythology, Cú Chulainn is the warrior of the Ulster cycle of mythology and was the greatest of the Red Branch Knights. But his wife is Eimear. It's me. And what about me in this story? She hardly gets a look in. There's a story about the wooing of Eimear, and I will not be wooed this time. So what is the truth of our story in all of this? And I have to point out this painting of Macha. It's called The Trial of Macha. That's been painted by a local artist in Armagh, and this hangs in Petra's house as well. So there she is, running faster than any horse in Ireland. So that's the beautiful, beautiful sacred storytelling pilgrimage that we're inviting you on. And we do have an early bird price right now until the 1st of May of 555, sacred number, and that you have the option to pay in full or pay in installments. So feel into your heart and open up to receive exactly the instructions of what needs to happen for you. I'm going to stop the share there. And if you do have any questions or anything else to share.
Did you want to pop up the witch's wheel?
Yeah, let's do that.
We'll just run through that before we close, and then if anyone has a question, absolutely.
Yes.
Ooh.
Sylvia saying, ooh, Pleiades, sisters, yes.
Yeah.
7 sisters.
Yeah, it's going to be quite an activation. So yeah, if your soul's calling you, it's going to be a very special event. Boom! I love that picture. Straight into the temple.
I love that. That is a portal in itself,
Yeah.
isn't it? Ooh. Yeah, the
Oh, yeah,
portal.
this activates my heart just looking down that.
Yeah, yeah.
Which the witch's will is called this time Resurrect the Divine Spark Within.
Yeah. And this is on Friday, the 22nd of March, 7 p.m. UK. And I'll scroll down to the outlines of which we've alluded to earlier on. And these are the aspects that I've put you first, Cheryl. We may weave, we will see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
The resurrection story, Isis and the occult lineage. I can't wait to learn all about this from you, Cheryl. Temple arts, teaching, the black and white rose path for light workers and shadow warriors. I love that. 10 bodies of light activation and the journey. So important to land, to integrate, heal, and reclaim your mystery school lineage. Gorgeous. Part 2 with me, Eimear Stassin, the wounded masculine and that crucifixion of the divine masculine. Ouch. The 5 holy wounds, which I came across, has been referred to as the treasure of treasures for souls.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing about that.
What is beneath the wound are your treasures. The resurrection key, rising up into new states of consciousness. And sacred storytelling, as I shared earlier, from Isis and Osiris of what's come through from me. So you'll be getting the best from both of us every time. And I don't mean the both of us like Isis and Osiris. I mean Cheryl and Eimear. Ooh, what if we are? Here we are, back again, resurrecting the word of truth. Because in the beginning, there was the truth, and we are bringing it back. And a healing journey. We'll be taking you, this bit I haven't mentioned, we'll be going to this place, which is part of the Newgrange complex. It's the 3rd part of the Newgrange complex called Douth Duvach, which means darkening. And it's a place where I had an extremely visceral experience of this gaping wound on the land. And Cheryl stepped in to support the healing of the land. And I'll be sharing more about that. So your ticket, it's £33, sacred number. When you get your ticket, you'll receive your joining link and join us. If you can't make it live, you get the recording, which you have lifetime access to. So where else would you want to be?
And we're on, yeah, we've only got 2 more to go. We've done a wheel.
Ooh, yeah. And I do feel that number 6 relates to the wounded masculine.
Well, it relates to when you look at the hero's journey or the spiritual wheel. It's like the spiritual crisis is number 6, and that spiritual crisis, when in storytelling, drops you one further in. And I often find like I've had to question everything I've ever been taught before on my spiritual journey. A dark night of the soul got me on it when I realized I was living a soulless life. And that was Easter weekend when I had a nervous breakdown. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I left my job to go into acting. But actually, the number 6 on the hero's journey, or the soul journey, that I talk about is spiritual crisis, when you're like, hang on, everything that I thought I believed in, now I'm questioning. And so that's kind of what has been my journey through the Black Rose, through mystery school, just going, hang on, is it all this true? And I've been going level deeper and having to really tie up with my own soul's knowledge. And I recommend that everybody does that. Just like, what is true to you? Because there's so many conflicting forces out there. And it's like, you know, once you get soul strong, it's like, okay, yeah,
So strong.
yeah, let's do this.
Yeah. And I feel like it was even evident at the weekend when I was driving down to the Lake District from Scotland, and there were turnoffs I missed, or I was being rerouted, and I
Right.
feel that it's like, if you're not meant to go a certain place, you're going to be rerouted, because we've got to stay in the path. And I'm noticing that's happening more and more. Like road
Tell me
closures.
about it with my arts
Really?
funding this week, when I was like, what? I was sure I've spent months putting in funding for producer training, which I've been working really hard at. And then just this Monday, I got, yeah, you didn't get it. And I was like, I was sure that that was meant to happen, but it's been rerouted. It's like I've moved straight into a very busy week doing other things that are very aligned. All of this being part of that and more. And yeah, I guess something about it was like, no, you were meant to invest this much into producing, but it's not always the, financial game. And I think that's something we have to really play with when you have like faith, that you go, I'm jumping, I'm meant to be somewhere, I'm going to do something, I'll find a way. And it was my healer that I first trained with that pointed that out to me. I was training as an actor, and I had something in my savings, and I took it out to work with her. And she said, she was very expensive back then. I was like, I have to do this. I just knew I had to do it. And it changed my life. It's where I saw myself get hung as a witch. It was where I learned I had gifts rather than, these disabilities in it. And she said, like, when you invest in something in yourself, like, it'll always pan out. And that's what I found in life. It's like when you jump in on the right path, it's like the universe will catch you. I mean, I know it's a scary thing, but it's happened to me time and time and time again.
Yeah. And Rose was saying the bird was visiting the window as you were talking, Cheryl.
Yeah.
Fly. And we're
No.
calling in, we're calling in the new Soul Tribe to support this work and to be part of this great mission that we're being
Yeah.
called to do, to reinvigorate and remember Tara now on earth within us.
And it is that magical because, I sometimes think, I didn't know Ema a few years ago.
No,
I didn't
I
know
can't
you.
remember a world without Emer being in it. I mean, Cheryl being in it.
It's true. I was like, and I think that's how the soul tribe weaves, it's always bigger than we expect, and more magical. And I think that's, yeah, what's being called. And I remember us starting out on the witch's wheel journey, going, I just feel like we need to hold space for a community to, bring up these things and talk about these things and discover what's in their own soul, as we'd been going through this big awakening. And it's the same about gathering on lands, whatever it is that is your thing, whether you're wanting to know your soul better, wanting to write stories or speak stories or do land healings. It's kind of like that's our collective. That's how we help the soul tribe. And a few years ago, yeah, I was just gonna go, I'm gonna put a play on in theatre. And that's me down. I've spoken about the witches. That's enough, right? And it was like, no, we're gonna make you do much more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was the same, putting on Healing the Witch Wound Summit in 2020 and then going tick, witch is done, on to the next letter, on to back to normal life. And there was never a back to normal again. So it's, yeah.
I always get flashbacks of that healing though that we did, that they were like, quite a few more summits. And I was like, how do I tell her? It's like, well, there's quite a few more things. And then it was like, and there's going to be like looking under the round table. There's going to be, ooh, yeah,
So it
yeah.
takes great courage to walk this path, which is why we are all connecting now with our soul tribe to
Mm.
gift each other the space and the support that we need.
Yeah. And that makes me want to say, in like a conclusion from my part, about that it takes great courage to speak the story of your soul, because it's much easier to mirror what you've heard, others' teachings, but to actually speak the truth of your soul. And all of our truth is going to be slightly different. And that's okay, because we've had different life experiences, we've had different soul experiences. It's not meant to match up. But I honestly think there's no better legacy or healing for the world than speaking, communing, teaching, leaving the story of your soul behind for those to walk behind you in the resurrection cycle.
Wow. Wow, that's beautiful. We are the torch holders, the torch bearers, the keepers of the sacred flame.
Mm.
So come be with us and walk with us, because this is our time.
Yeah,
And
lovely.
Sylvia, back to the practicalities, Sylvia saying,
Oh,
can we pay by bank transfer? Important question that, yes, send me an email and we'll arrange that. So I don't know if that's for the Witches Wheel or for the Sacred Storytelling Ireland retreat, but send me an email and we'll deal with it. Thanks. Any other final words from either of us? I asked this to myself too. And hi everyone over on YouTube watching as well. Got 9 watching over there, which is beautiful. Hi.
there's just this song that came in, so I'll share it. I don't know what song it is. That as I lay me down to sleep, as I pray that you will hold me deep. Is that the words? That's what's singing in my ear.
Ave Maria. Is that it?
I think it's a different song, but I'm really glad you brought that. I really enjoyed that. Uh, as I lay me down to sleep. It's the words, because I often get sort of angels singing in my ears. As I lay me down to sleep, as I pray, your soul that I will keep. And it just made me feel in a beautiful way that that was the message of that resurrection story. You know, as I lay my soul down to sleep in death, I pray that my soul you'll keep me safe, keep me nurtured. And that is just, I don't know, a little sacred prayer about how important that the soul's journey really is. And yeah, I'm just very grateful to be able to activate mine in these beautiful spaces and places with my soul tribe. So thank you.
Thank you too. And there will be singing at these events too. Join in if you wish. Listen.
Yeah, the angels sang a lot of songs last time. I was like, okay, they've got a song for you. They've got a song for you. And we were doing drumming and dancing and all sorts around the circle. So yeah,
Because this
yeah,
is how we clear the land as well, through all these ways, all these means, through
yeah,
sacred frequency vibrations.
yeah. And by remote viewing. And I remember over lockdown that I spent a long time going internal and traveling. And so, you know, some people have got a real call. They're like, I need to get on the land, I need to get out, I need to be with people. And that's like a call. So it's like, hear that call come. And other people are in that hermit mode. And that is a sacred practice too. I spend a lot of time doing that. And that is like joining, you know, workshops and mystery schools, because you don't need to go anywhere. You can travel everywhere. That is the psychic multidimensional ability. So it's like your soul's either going, I need to get out, I need to get to the land, I need to get with people, I need to be in a soul tribe. Or it's going, I need to receive, I need to go internal, I need my hermit phase, I need to grow, nourish this spirit. And that's why we do online offerings as well as live, because there's both phases of the journey are really important. I know for me, it's been, I've needed to know what to pick and when and what's most nourishing. And I'm grateful that I can, and I continue to do both when I need to, because it's meant that, you can access so much more because you don't have to think about traveling, because you can be there and time travel and be at home in your sacred space. And then there's that thing about being with other people and nourishing the land. So
And
yeah,
hugging each other.
I need both. Absolutely. Both.
And Michelle, I need both, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, beautiful. I might have to bring the yellow tit that's knocking at the window as well.
Did you dress in yellow for the bird?
Well, yeah, that's what Michelle was saying. You're matching. I just felt the gold today.
Yeah,
Royal gold, Celtic gold.
I
And
felt
react.
green, the heart
Oh,
chakra. I was like green and pink, the heart. Yeah.
mm,
And I've even got, which I don't wear that often, the eye.
oh, that's
Yeah.
gorgeous. Seen with new eyes, seen through new eyes
Yeah.
of Isis.
Yeah. And that too.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thanks, Ema.
Thank you. I was waiting for that. And I was going to have to thank myself.
I gave you a gratitude email and you didn't give me one back. I was like, I'm so grateful for. You were like, yeah, I would be.
So grateful for you too. Thank you for being in my life, for weaving and creating
It's
these.
like when you tell the kids they have to say thank you. Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
That
Thanks.
was my nieces at the weekend. Say thank you. Okay.
Yeah, through gritted teeth.
Yeah, or do I have to?
Oh, thank you all for being here. Oh, very noble and regal today. Yeah, yeah, we're going with the royal codes and what
Yeah.
true royalty really is. Well, thanks, Cheryl, again, and to everyone watching live or in the replay, thanks for being here. Oh, Beth, rocked it again, ladies. Looking forward to the next wheel. Thanks, Beth. You've been on all of these wheels walking with us. And final ad is that when you do sign up to this one, we have a bonus wheel for everyone that joined any of our Witches Wheel throughout the year in August sometime. You'll hear more about that later.
The epic wheel.
Epic wheel, walk it with us. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yellow, green, and pink. A bonus spare tire. You can never have enough wheels, can you?
Bonus spare time. That's good.
Definitely got it here. Going
I
on with
know, I
my
just
body.
thought of a roll of fat. No, it'd be more nourishing than a roll of fat, promise you.
Yeah, yeah. On that note,
All
goodbye.
right, lovely.